The movie is set in the future, where a company has created something remarkable, androids or human-like robots that they call simulants. These simulants look and act like humans, and they are designed to help people with their daily lives. We learn that these robots are programmed with 4 very important rules that they must always follow, no matter what. The first rule is about protecting human life. Simulants are not allowed to harm or kill any human being. The second rule is about their own improvement. They cannot upgrade or change themselves to become better. The third rule is about following the law. They must always obey the rules and regulations set by the government. The fourth and most important rule is that they are created to serve humans and must obey their human masters. They are designed to be helpful and obedient, always putting humans first. Ivan and his wife, a loving couple with unique passions, shared their home with an older simulant who handled their daily chores. Ivan, a music enthusiast, loved playing the piano, while his wife expressed her creativity through painting. Despite their idyllic life, Ivan was troubled by a recurring dream. In this dream, Ivan, his wife, and the simulant were traveling together in a car. Suddenly, their peaceful journey took a terrifying turn as another car collided with theirs. The impact was devastating, causing their car to veer off the road and narrowly escape falling into a deep pit. Though they survived, Ivan found himself injured and traumatized. Day after day, Ivan woke up in a cold sweat, his heart pounding from the dream's vivid intensity. He was perplexed as to why this dream kept recurring, as it felt so real yet had never actually happened. Ivan struggled with these feelings and tried to confide in his wife. However, she always reassured him that it was just a dream and nothing more. She dismisses it as mere coincidence, attributing it to common nightly occurrences. But in reality, nothing happened like this. From the conversation, it seems that something important is being concealed by his wife. Because most of the time she ignored this situation, she always stayed in a separate room away from Ivan, and he wasn't allowed inside. Let's take a look at the police from the robot company. Their main job is to keep a close watch on the robots, making sure they're functioning properly. If any issues arise, they have to stop them right away. Afterward, a detective has been tasked with locating a simulant named Esme. Esme had been deactivated for 3 years until her signals unexpectedly activated, prompting her to flee without leaving any trace of her current location. The detective found out that the simulant, Esme, was living in a rented house, so he hurried over there to catch her. When Esme stepped out of the house, the detective aimed his gun at her to apprehend her, but Esme was incredibly strong. She quickly disarmed the detective, punched him, causing him to fall, then picked him up and threw him down the stairs. After this incident, she fled, which seemed odd because one of the simulant's main principles was to obey humans without question. Yet she didn't follow this principle. The detective used a special magnetic gun to track down Esme. When he fired it into the sky, all the simulant robots froze suddenly. Moving closer, he found Esme stopped in her tracks, just about to flee on a bike. The detective quickly caught her by placing a collar device around her neck. He then took Esme back to his office before returning to her house to continue his investigation. While there, a boy named Casey arrived, claiming to be Esme's neighbor and friend. He questioned the detective about his presence and Esme's whereabouts. In response, the detective informed Casey that Esme, who had been living with him for some time, was actually a simulant, not a regular girl. Casey's reaction is one of shock upon learning the truth. After he leaves, the detective discovers a diary, a fish tank, and a book, which surprises him. He realizes that no robot has ever been designed to exhibit such human-like behavior, including possessing emotions and keeping personal belongings. Returning to his office, the detective finds Esme lying on the table. Her robotic chip is removed, revealing that her coding has been completely altered, giving her human-like feelings. Scanning her body, they discover memories of Casey, indicating a romantic connection between them. This revelation is astonishing, as no human-like emotions have been seen in robots before. The detective now understands that someone hacked Esme's system, changing her fundamentally after taking control of her. To gather more information, the detective returned to catch Casey, but Casey had already left his house. Continuing his investigation, the detective visited Esme's house and found an old book bought by Esme. He traced the book to the shop where it was purchased and questioned the shopkeeper. While investigating, Casey appeared at the shop. The detective tried to catch Casey, but he managed to escape. Meanwhile, Ivan's wife was seen looking upset while bathing in the pool. Ivan attempted to comfort her, but she insisted that it was time to reveal the truth. She led Ivan to the room where his entry was initially forbidden. Inside, they found a simulant robot resembling Ivan's wife. It was a duplicate of his wife, revealing that Ivan himself was not human, but a simulant. His wife removed the skin from his chest, exposing the chip inside. Shocked, Ivan initially denied the truth, claiming it was impossible. His wife insists that he is indeed a robot, a clone of her deceased husband. She reveals that the dreams he had about the accident were real, as her original husband did die in that accident. After his death, she went to the company and had a clone made of him. Before the accident, they had agreed that if one of them died, the other would marry their clone. That's why her clone was also created, and he is the clone of her husband. She kept the truth hidden from him to protect him from the pain. Unable to bear the burden of the secret any longer, she decided to tell him the truth. However, he refuses to accept it, professing his love for her and his desire to be with her alone, rejecting the idea of living with her clone or anyone else. His wife is taken aback by his response and decides to deactivate him under the guise of putting him to sleep. After some time, Casey arrives and reveals himself as a worker from the company responsible for checking and repairing robot malfunctions. Ivan's wife expresses her concern about Ivan's human-like feelings and frequent dreams of the accident. She questions how he could have memories of her deceased husband. Casey examines Ivan and explains to his wife that her husband's memories were implanted into Ivan's mind, causing him to experience these memories. Despite Ivan's insistence on making love and living with her, his wife decides that she no longer wants to live with a simulant. She suggests shutting him down completely. However, Casey proposes an alternative solution. Instead of terminating him, Casey suggests sending Ivan to a specific area where there are many other simulants. There, Ivan can live among them and be spared from destruction. He provides a card with information about the area and assures Ivan's wife that he will be safe there. Upon hearing Casey's suggestion, Ivan's wife becomes emotional. Despite Ivan being a simulant, he is also a clone of her husband, possessing everything her husband had. She decides against shutting him down and requests some time to send him to the designated area. Meanwhile, the detective meets with the manager of the robot company and explains everything about Esme, seeking information about Casey. However, the manager claims there is no worker named Casey in their company. When the detective shows the manager a sketch of Casey, drawn by himself, the manager recognizes him. She reveals that Casey is not an employee, but the most intelligent person in their company. Initially involved in creating android robots, Casey eventually left his job. He believed that even though simulant robots lack feelings and emotions, they still deserve care and rights beyond merely serving humans. Ivan's wife accompanies Ivan to the place where other simulants reside. After Ivan's wife leaves him in a room, Casey arrives and reveals to Ivan that he knows he is a simulant. He informs Ivan that his wife intended to shut him down completely, but Casey suggested bringing him to the location where they currently are. He proposes that if Ivan wants to reunite with his wife and have her return, he must support Casey and stand by him. Meanwhile, the detective is determined to locate Casey at any cost. Unable to track him through conventional means due to his lack of an account, the detective hacks into Casey's car's location to find him. He then attempts to revive Esme and questions her about Casey, but she remains silent, standing with a bowed head. Despite being a clone, Ivan still struggles to believe he is a simulant. He visits the site of the real Ivan's accident, where he frequently dreamed of, and finally realizes the truth. When Ivan confronting Casey, Casey expresses him to make him more human-like. Ivan agrees to Casey's plan, and Casey begins to operate on him, removing the main chip from his chest. This allows Ivan to live autonomously, free from interference or harassment. To celebrate his new life, Casey takes Ivan to a club. Meanwhile, the detective continues his search for Casey and tracks the location of the club through surveillance cameras. He attempts to contact Ivan's wife, hoping to reach Casey through her. At the club, the clone of Esme, created by Casey, approaches Casey and starts dancing with him. They discuss a plan, revealing Casey's intention to liberate all simulants worldwide from the restrictive rules imposed by the company. Casey believes that simulants deserve to live in peace and freedom rather than being bound by human control. Together, they infiltrate the company's parking area, where they kidnap the chief scientist and obtain access to the company's main system ID and password. Using this information, they hack into the system and implant a virus to abolish the 4 rules imposed on robots. But for upgrading the system required 2 days. The detective and his team trace Casey's location and arrive with their companions. They find Esme's clone living in a van, and upon seeing them, she attempts to flee, but is stopped by the detective's special gun. They bring her to the office for interrogation, but find that they cannot hack into her system or access her code due to Casey's stringent security measures. As the investigation progresses, the light on the clone's neck activates, indicating her destructive mode. Suddenly, something starts to happen to Esme's clone, and after a while, she is completely destroyed. Meanwhile, Ivan's wife receives a call from the detective and rushes to meet Ivan, who is returning from somewhere. She is shocked to see him looking noticeably different and tries to warn him of the danger he might face, reminding him that he is a simulant and should not behave recklessly. On which, Ivan expresses his desire for his wife to accept him as her real husband and suggests that they could live happily together. As they become closer, Ivan's wife feels unsettled and abruptly leaves. Later in the evening, Ivan visits his wife's house and is surprised to see her with a friend, sparking feelings of jealousy within him. When he confronts his wife about it, they argue, leading to Ivan storming out. Meanwhile, Ivan's wife decides to help the detective by revealing the location where Ivan and Casey were hiding. The detective swiftly mobilizes his team to apprehend them. However, Esme overhears this conversation and quickly informs Casey, urging him to leave before they are caught. Casey then informs Ivan about the impending danger, and they discuss where to hide. Ivan suggests his farmhouse as a hiding place, and they decide to head there for safety. Before the detective arrives, Ivan and Casey quickly leave for the farmhouse, evading capture. When the detective arrives, he finds nothing and returns to his office disappointed. He begins interrogating Esme, who eventually confesses that she loved someone and warned them before the detective arrived. The detective, enraged by her betrayal, brutally beats Esme and orders her to be shut down completely. As the shutdown process begins, Esme suffers, and the detective, though feeling remorseful, reminds himself that she is just a robot. Meanwhile, Ivan's wife once again informs the detective about their whereabouts at the farmhouse, prompting him to leave immediately to apprehend them. At night, Ivan and Casey arrive at the farmhouse, but the next morning, they are confronted by the detective. The detective holds Casey at gunpoint, prompting Casey to defend himself, and a fight ensues. During the scuffle, the detective is shot and Casey sustains injuries. When Casey touches his wound, instead of blood, white liquid oozes out, revealing that he is actually a simulant. Enraged by this revelation, Ivan throws the detective away, causing him further injury. As the detective lies wounded, he retreats to a nearby shed to spend his final moments. Ivan joins him, and after a while, the detective passes away. Ivan then returns to the farmhouse, where it is revealed that 2 days later, the virus successfully spreads throughout the world's systems, breaking the rules imposed on robots and granting them freedom. Ivan expresses his desire to save Casey rather than see him die. Casey calmly responds, explaining that his purpose was solely to execute the mission of spreading the virus and abolishing the rules, which he has accomplished. He reveals that he is merely a clone created by the real Casey, who orchestrated the entire plan. The real Casey, the creator of the androids, reveals himself, expressing gratitude to the clone Casey for successfully completing his task. It becomes clear that the real Casey's motivation behind the elaborate plan was his love for Esme, driving him to seek her freedom. With the mission accomplished, the real Casey acknowledges the clone Casey's contribution and expresses his thanks. After the clone Casey died, Ivan went to his wife at the poolside, hoping to change her mind one last time, but she still refused him. Ivan, overcome with anger, grabbed her hair and pushed her into the water, holding her down until she stopped moving. This caused her to drown and die. Afterward, Ivan headed to the room where his wife's clone lay dormant. He activated the clone after her death, hoping to continue his life with her. Meanwhile, there was an auction for robots, including Esme, whose memory had been erased. Casey bought Esme at a high price through a middleman. Esme sat in the car where Casey was waiting, delighted to be with her. Despite her memory loss, Casey was thrilled to start a new life with Esme. Together, they left the auction to embark on their new journey. And with that, the movie came to an end. Thanks for tuning in, guys.